one. Well, hello everyone. Good day, good night, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Peel Stewart, the John Kingdom Saga. We're back on Six Elementals interviews. Today, the first of two interviews I have. This is an author who is someone that I recently discovered, that I should have discovered a long time ago, because boy, is her writing astounding. I am just so blown away by her craft. This is someone who I hope to get to know better as the years go by and learn from them, because I think for especially all you indie authors out there, who are looking for mentors and people that you can actually look up to in terms of what they're able to do on the page. I think my guest is one of them. I really was just enthralled by her, the first book in her series, Sardanian. It is stellar. And we'll get into all the reasons why I think that later. But quickly, before I keep going on and gushing, which I'll be doing a lot in this interview, I think, let me introduce our guest, the incredible author, LL Stevens. How are you today, LL?
I'm good. I'm doing great.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so honored to have you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I like talking with nice people, and you're a nice person. So.
Well, thank you.
We'll have fun.
Oh, we will for sure. And speaking of brilliant authors and people that I look up to, and people that you can learn from in terms of their incredible craft and writing ability, and someone who happens to be a fan of your writing as well, LL, an iconic author and someone who I am very privileged to consider a dear friend, the incomparable Jenny Wirtz. Jenny, thanks so much for coming out and saying hi, coming out to support LL. Of course, Jenny is my favorite author. I make no bones about that. And she is, as we all know, a wonderful person that is so giving of her time in supporting other authors and helping them and mentoring them. So like LL, she's cut from that ilk. And we're always happy to see Jenny. So thanks again for coming out, Jenny. LL, I recently put out my top books of the year in both categories for indie published and traditionally published. Yours, Sardanian, was one of the final books I considered for my book of the year.
Thank you.
It was absolutely spectacular. I briefly commented in that post where I put up my top books that, of all the things I love about this book, the characterization is second to none. And the main character, Dorillian, is we're going to get into a bunch of topics, I think, during this discussion, but it's been burning me. I'm sorry, I'm going to be selfish here because I'm the host. I have to know, how did you manage to create a character so compelling, so I guess you can't look away from them, right? They have that it factor that I think when you read the story, it is almost impossible not to have strong emotions evoked about this character one way or another. How did you go about crafting this god prince person?
That's a good description of him. It took a long time. I created this character when I was a teenage girl, and I'm no longer one. So it took a long time, but it also took life. I have 3 sons. I watched them grow up. They're adults now. I saw them as teenagers, and that's where Dorillian is a teenager, which he starts in Sardanian. He's a teenager. Oh my gosh, that's my boys, except in different layers. It's not one person. So I tried to keep him real, and that was the thing. I wanted to keep him real. He wasn't fully real when I first showed the series to Daw Books. They were my first publisher, and I showed the series to them, and it was the later books. And the editor there, Peter Stamfel, he's a wonderful guy. He said, well, this is ambitious, he said, but I'm going to tell you something. I want to know about this guy. and he met Derillian, who was, a kind of a remote and angry person at that point. And he said, I want to know about him and Mark Frederick. I want to know what happened there. I want you to write that book. And I'm like, oh, good grief, I have to write another book. But I did. Eventually, there was life got in the way and stuff. But I thought a lot about it. And so I wanted to tell the story of not just one guy, but two guys, two people. And that's where Derillian truly came into his own when I created young Derillian, his backstory, and Mark Frederick, because I had to create Mark Frederick too. And two people. And I tried to keep them real people with real feelings and really trying to deal with their own issues. And Derillian's issues are very different from anybody else in the world's issues. Other people don't see his issues because they just see an angry teenage, entitled, okay, he's an asshole. And Mark Frederick knows there's more going on there. So I tried to keep them both real and how they were dealing with their issues. And I guess I succeeded. It's like, I guess I did my job because it worked. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it definitely worked. Derillian made an impression on me like few characters in fantasy ever have. And he lives rent-free in my head. I feel that, and Janny, she's, because she's brilliant, and her insight into characterization is spectacular as well. And she writes brilliant, compelling characters, just like you.
Yes,
you can't look away from, and she plays off those relationships just as you do. Jenny says that Mark Frederick was a perfect counterpoint to fling Derillian onto his future course. Stunning work. Totally agree, Jenny. The push and pull and tug between those two characters, that it's I don't want to get into spoilers here. I cannot spoil this book for anyone who's watching because it is just too good. So these are two characters that are essentially, by virtue of their position, etc., are inevitably supposed to be enemies.
Yes.
and on opposing sides. One, of course, in Mark Frederick is older, and you would think that nominally has more wisdom to offer in life in general, because he's been there. He's a seasoned ruler. He's been there, done that. He understands all the political machinations and the complications of ruling, the complications of the ruling class, the complications of someone like Derillian, who is unique in of himself, totally unique, and set apart in a way. But Mark also has to protect himself, his interests, and that, as I said, by virtue of, again, I can't spoil anything here, but virtue of the way things are set up in terms of the political machinations, again, of this world, he's set up as Derillian's enemy, but he also understands that there's much more to this boy than just an arrogant, entitled, dangerous young man who kind of holds the fate of the world in his hands, in a way, right? What made you? We talked about Derillian, but what made you use Mark Frederick as that counterpoint that Jenny's talking about, like the foil?
I think that's the thing that interested the editor who set me on that path, was what in that was working. Mark Frederick existed as a legacy already. His legacy with Derillian, I had already established it. So I needed to show how that happened. Mark Frederick is descended from, but also related to the Wall Lords, the people who can see into time. And the Wall itself, an entity, it's a God machine entity, has been trying to establish something. Mark Frederick is part of that plan. And Mark knows, maybe more than other people, just how badly Derillian can go. And he wants to make sure that doesn't happen. He's there to make sure that doesn't happen. But how do you make sure something doesn't happen with a godling who has the potential to become something so dangerous, and who has the motivation to become dangerous? because of the way things in the past had set up. Mark Frederick did do things against Durilian's country. He did imprison Durilian's grandfather. He did occupy Durilian's country of empire of Sordan, and Durilian has every reason to see him as an enemy. And so how do you break through that? And I had fun working with them. I've lived with them. I move into these guys' heads. They move into my head. I have conversations. So it was a matter of working it out, but also in working it out in a way readers could find sympathetic, or else I would lose them entirely. So I don't know exactly. I just think I kept reworking it. This novel was revised at least 20 times. And I passed it through writers' workshops, the online writers' workshop, the Pendragon writers' workshop. Professional writers like Aliette de Bodard were its first readers, and Bradley Batelot. It had some good first readers who gave me insight into how maybe I could work things. And as I kept revising it, I had a lot of fun with those conversations. They have some of the most amazing conversations.
Yes.
And some of them are rooted in my own conversations with my boys. I had one of my teenage sons sit me down one day when he was 16 and I was 15 and tell me he knew the world's order. He had figured it all out. Here he is, 16 years old. And I'm going, oh, you figured it all out, huh? That's what teenagers are like. And I wanted to capture that innocence in a way, but also, they haven't figured it out, but they think they have. Durilian has a lot to figure out. His birthright as the heir to a god machine, one that can produce immense power, more than he even knows, and that other people suspect. And he has enemies because of that god machine. So he has to figure out how to deal with enemies at a very young age. And he thinks Mark is one, but maybe he figures out that Mark isn't, I wanted to show the conflict of being someone who is immensely gifted, but also clueless. So.
And you illustrated that paradox so brilliantly. I again, what you did with Durilian, and as Jenny said, what you did with Mark Frederick as that counterbalance was masterful. And I think their relationship so many other incredible
auxiliary you
characters. I apologize. I froze there,
okay.
So I apologize.
I didn't know what to do, so I just smiled.
Yeah, no, if I freeze, I'm out in the country. If my internet goes out, I apologize. Just keep on the channels. I'm really sorry about that. Quickly, we have Andre who says, just coming by to say hello to one of the greatest science fiction and fantasy female authors out there. And I'd have to agree. That very well said. Oh, and thank you, sir. He also says, saying hi to PL and Jenny, and also good vibes. Thank you so much. Good vibes to you as well. So this, you said that, and you said a lot that this whole story, this concept, these books have been a long time in the making. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that essentially it's a 6-book series that is already written and waiting for the last book to be published.
Yes.
How did this journey start? So you've mentioned you mentioned DAW books that you've been traditionally published. You've published with this with a smaller press. It would seem. Can you tell us a bit about? I want to go. We need to go back to the story itself first, but I do want to get into, if you don't mind me going back just a bit, into your writing journey, how it came to be, how you came to be a writer, what was the genesis of your writing journey, and how did you get from Daw Books, which is a big trad imprint, to small press and all of that?
Well, it started with me just writing for fun as a teenager, as a young adult. My mother was convinced that if I pursued writing for a career, I'd end up in a garret and starving. So she totally told me, don't pursue the arts, don't become a writer, just do something practical, And I came from a working class background. I knew I would have to pay my bills somehow. So I became a respiratory therapist. And so I wrote on the side, but I had other jobs. I was not starting out to be a published writer. But I ended up married and had kids, and I was bored. So I started writing again. And much to my mother's dismay, she was sure my marriage would fall to pieces. But I showed the stories I was writing to my sister. Now, I was already writing the triumvirate books. I had written much of it, the series Hans and Derillion and Maranthro, and they were all there. I had that. It was a lot rougher than it is now because I was in my 20s then, and I wasn't as good a writer. I'll be honest. You get better as you keep doing it, right? So, but I showed my sister another book. I said, well, nobody's going to want to publish a big old fantasy like this. And it's true. I approached a few agents and they said, oh, no, we just write something smaller. Don't show me this stuff. I want something small. So I wrote this book. And I sent it to Daw. And my sister said, yeah, send that. It's as good as anything else out there. So I did. This is back when you had to send in a paper manuscript that was that thick, And I did. And they bought it. And they published it. And I thought, oh, okay, I can do this. I can become a writer, even though Mother still disapproved. And it's like, yeah, I'll try it. But life got in the way. But I did show the editor of the triumvirate books. And that's where he sent me on the path of Derillion. But because life got in the way, the marriage did fall apart. And for various reasons, as marriages do, and I had to support myself and pay bills again. So in any event, I kept writing, even though the judge in my divorce trial told me not to do this, that I had to get a real job and do real things and not be a writer. So give up on that, he told me. I said, okay. And I didn't give up on it, but I did pour myself into supporting myself and my children. But I kept writing. And I said, well, I might as well write this book because the editor wanted it. and why not? So I did write that book. And that's what I was doing when I was in my 30s and 40s. I wrote Sordanian. But, various complications, life. I did workshop it. I tried to get agents interested. I sent out, I cannot tell you how many queries for the series. They don't want series from me. They wanted me to establish myself with anthologies and short stories and smaller books. I didn't have any smaller books in me. I had these books. So I kept working on these books and workshopping them and making them better. And I earned some fans for these books among various writers who read them. But I didn't get agents to take interest. And I didn't get publishers because now you needed publishers. And then people started self-publishing, but I'm not interested in doing that. I don't want to deal with making sure my formatting is right and stuff. So anyway, that I found myself in the mid 2000s, and 2009, around then, saying, I'll give up on this Sordanian thing. I'll give up on the triumvirate books. I'm having fun. I can still write them. And I did. I kept revising them. And I wrote a bunch of other stuff for other publishers that were in genres, erotic romance, male romance. I am published in those. But that wasn't really where my heart was. My heart is in epic fantasy. My heart is in these books, and I wanted to get them published, but nothing was happening. Every time I turned to an agent, they'd say, you're too old. or they'd say, no, we need smaller books. So one day, one of the people I had shown the series to, people had read the series. A lot of people have. Um, but she said, I'm starting a small publishing company. I would like to publish your books. And I said, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Someone wants to make it possible for other people to read my books, because I wasn't going to self-publish them. I knew that. But she was willing to do it with her publishing company, Forest Path Books. And I said, okay, let's try this, because I knew she liked the story. She's a great writer herself. She hired good editors. She hired artists. We made sure it was good. I said, it has to be a good quality book. I won't put out something that, I can't be proud of. I want to be proud of these. So we did it. And she published the first book, Sordanian, in 2021. We've had a book ever since. And the sixth book comes out in April. And right now I'm doing edits on it. We got the editors, the cover artists coming. That book will definitely be published. The whole series was done. It just needed a publisher. And she found me. And I'm so happy. I could not be more grateful for that, because otherwise it would be something my kids would inherit, maybe, But this way, other people get to enjoy my work. And I really thought, I bet if the right people find these books, they'll like them. They'll love them. And at least some people will enjoy them. I know it's not for everyone. It's a very dense story. It's very political. It doesn't have dragons, But I thought, I just need to get it to the right people. So it was a long journey. It was a long journey of navigating my insecurities. I didn't pursue, when I had a traditional publisher, I didn't pursue hard for that writing career. I didn't. I paid more attention to taking care of the kids and my own life. I had a great career as a legislative assistant, as a public relations director for an airport. I mean, I did stuff, but I always wanted to have my books published, and it's finally happened. And I could not be happier, because I always believed in them, but now I needed someone else to believe in them too.
Well, we could not be happier for you. We are so happy to be blessed and privileged by your work. I can tell you, you have a fan for life. I know that people like Jenny Wirtz, who again is an iconic author, she feels the same way. We've seen people in the chat that have already come to just sing your praises and sing the praises of your work. We have Jeffrey here that says, I will be behind the live stream. I want to comment that the relationship between Mark Frederick and Derillian was fantastic. I would love to see a Mark Frederick prequel. We have another absolutely brilliant author joining us, Crystal Matar, author of The Tainted Dominion and Legacy of the Brightwash, which is, a well-known indie darling.
Really good book, yes.
An incredible book. Crystal, thanks so much for coming by. Crystal is a brilliant author and blogger. Check out her and everything she does in this space. Follow her. She is amazing. Love you, Crystal. Thanks so much for coming by. Always great to see your face. And again, read Legacy of the Brightwash, because you will be absolutely flabbergasted with how good it is. I don't want to dwell on the negative. And thank you to your publisher for publishing this brilliant series, because we would be bereft, we would be robbed of brilliance if that didn't happen. So kudos to your publisher. Kudos to you for your perseverance and sticking with it. This is a book and a series so worth reading. It, again, is actually spectacular. But I want to understand, especially for some of the people out there who are looking for a path in publishing, self-publishing, small press, big five imprint. So you've been to the so-called mountaintop. You've had big five, trad, publications. We know that it's a dance and that the industry is changing and really rapidly and evolving, and it's somewhat very volatile. Obviously, there's advantage to being traditionally published. There's advantage to being with a small press. There's advantage to being with a big imprint. There's advantage to being completely self-published. It's not about so much how you publish, but whether it works for you. But I just want to go back to something you said. Like, I mean, you were an established author, clearly a brilliant author. You're shopping around this book, this series. Your agent or your publisher, someone says, like, you're too old. Like, I don't know. Like, what does that have to do with anything? What does it have to do with, how great a writer we are? What is, if anything, maturity is something I think life experience is a huge benefit for any author. Like, what I'm trying to understand what happened there.
Well, I kind of know what happened there, which is agents aren't necessarily looking. I mean, a lot of them do look just at the quality of the books, but they're also looking for a client who has a long tail, who will write books for them for years, making money for them for years. Maybe if someone's older, they don't see that. And I do wonder about that as being one of the reasons. The other was I probably tapped into somebody snarky. It was online. I sent a query. It was like you send the query and the agent comments. And right there on her blog in public, she started making fun of me about my age and how I had first been published too long ago, and what kind of hope did I have? And it was kind of crushing, to be perfectly honest. I will never forgive that agent. But it kind of put me off on agents, to be honest, for a while. That's what happened there. I ran into a snarky agent. I don't believe that of agents. I would love to have an agent. Any agents out there? Hey, I'm a good client. But it kind of put me off on agents. And it takes a long time to get published traditionally. The agent, you have to get an agent first for most of them. And then they go through a whole submission process that can take a few years. The agent can get a couple years to get an agent, a few years. It can take a few years for the agent to get a publisher for you. And then it can take another year and a half to get the book out. And then if the book doesn't sell well enough, and I have enough friends who are authors, I know this has happened many times. If the first book doesn't sell well enough, they won't publish the second or third book. So your series dies. So that can happen too in the traditional publishing rack. I think indie publishers, in many ways, mine is an indie publisher. The publisher is small, a select client, just a few publishers, authors, a few authors. Working closely, but you get a lot of detail, attention to your book, and it comes out a little faster. I was able to put out a book a year. A trad publisher usually doesn't. So that worked really well for me. I had someone who was willing to deal with the stuff I didn't want to deal with, which is formatting, pricing, putting it up on all the platforms. That's the stuff I don't want to deal with. I don't want to deal with the money, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to have to file with this form and that form and that form. And okay, so I found someone who was willing to do that for me, and I'm very happy. I could not be happier. But I admire self-publishers, people who publish their own books, who do have the energy and the talent and the foresight to do their own, gather their own art, gather their own, put people up, put the books up on the right sites, keep track of all the books, mail out all the books. That's the other thing. You have to mail out the books if people buy them. They do all of that. And I think that's amazing. I wish if I were younger, I might do that. I'm in a point in my life, I just don't want to deal with it. But I admire people who do. I read everything. I read trad, I read self-published, I read everything. And I can say some of the most exciting books I've read in the last few years have been self-published. It's just a matter of the book. That doesn't say anything about the quality of the book, how it's published. But it is very difficult to get traditionally published. It's very time-consuming. And that's the reason I didn't even try that again, to be perfectly honest. I tried for a while and I didn't succeed. So then I just said, okay, I'll do something else. But each path is a viable path.
Yes, totally agree. And your path clearly worked for you. The one you took, it may have been a bit circuitous, but you got there. And we are better for having your books. And Jenny Words, who knows quite a bit after 5 decades in the publishing industry, in the traditionally published side, she certainly is a wealth of knowledge on that industry and the highs and the lows and ups and the downs. She and clearly she's complimenting your series in that she says there are far too few series that have the benefit of long-term planning. Too many are released half-baked, and the finish suffers as a result. And I'm sure that what she's saying is that yours does not. Your everyone I talked to who's read, I only unfortunately have only read the first book, but everyone I've talked to or seen online has read beyond said that the series only continues to get better. It continues to be amazing, and I think, as Jen indicates, that is part of the benefit of how much work you put into planning the series and making it so well thought out, and just lending that gravitas to the work. So kudos to you on that. Crystal, like the author herself, says, agree, Jenny, and some of the things we rush ourselves to publish what's immediately next instead of taking the time to really think about the long-term plan for an idea, which is something that definitely Crystal does as well. Now, going back to that comment I made about the industry is not forgiving, nor the algorithm with taking time required. Now, Jenny does have a question. So I want to know why the postcards with your series artwork has no credit. Who did the illustration?
I have many postcards. The ones who with the artifacts, I love this one of the real stone. Look at how pretty it is. That's Margarita Burkova, and you're right. I should put it on the back. That's my failing as a. I do when I put them online tend to give the artist. It's Margarita Burkova, and she does beautiful work for artifacts and things. She's done wonderful things. And then I have these wonderful postcards. There's Dorilian, yeah, and there's my dog man. I love this. That's the artist Jamie Noble. And again, if I were a better person, I would put these on the back, and I would put their artist credit. I mean, they deserve every bit of credit. But also among my favorites are my postcards of the cities. And I have these travel postcards. They're just fantastic. And that's by the artist Lazar. And I wanted to get him to do more, but he's become too popular, and now he does work for bigger people than me. But yeah, it's just that's why. It's because I was so interested in getting postcards made, and I didn't put the thought into putting the artist's credit on. The artists deserve full credit for the beautiful work they do. I do commission artists. I look for artists to commission. It's like, oh, and my husband's like, oh, no, you did not do that again. I'm like, yeah, I did. I commissioned another artist. But I like to do that. I commission maps, map of the city of Dasnor Ranuli, yay. But I do that because I want people who are fans of the work. I always intended that if I could find my readers, if the books could find their readers, I would give them more. So on my website, I have lore articles, I have art, I'm trying to make the world as big and expansive as possible. And so it's like, yeah, move into my playground here, have fun, meet the characters, get to know them. And here's a picture if you want one. And so I do that. I commission art. But I will be better. I promise I'll be better about putting the artist's name on there.
And thanks for that, Jenny. Jenny always looking out for fellow authors. And
yeah.
You were so kind, LL, to send me. I was gonna actually show some of the artwork, but you've the cards and stuff, but you've already put it up. So you're so kind and generous to send me stuff. That stuff. Thank you so much. Absolutely beautiful. Jenny herself, who of course is a world-class artist and does much of the work on her own books, and of course her husband Don Mates is also a world-class artist. I always say it's unfair to have that much talent in one family, but Jenny's been blessed with it. I think that only, as you said, your books are lush and welcome. That they're the kind of books that it's an experience. As you said, come, read the book, look at the beautiful artwork, get immersed in the characters and the world, take your time. It's not meant to be rushed for me. It's one of those things that you savor. And those are the books that I love. Those are the books I absolutely love. And those are the books that stay with me and make and leave a lingering impression. And that's the kind of books that you write that that I absolutely adore. So kudos to you on that. So now quickly back to I'm just going to put up quick comment, professional bookworm. Hey, hello everyone. How you doing, professional bookworms? Thanks for coming out and saying hi. So back to the work. So this book, there are a lot of elements in this book. There are incredible themes in this book. One thing that I want to know this book for me as a reader, and of course I want to hear from you as a writer what your intentions were. This book, I think, blends fantasy with somewhat of a sci-fi tech element.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Rill specifically, and again, without getting into too many spoilers, how did the concept of this thing, and maybe you can give a bit of an explanation again without getting too spoilery about what it is, how did the concept of this thing come to being?
Originally, when I first conceived the series as a teen and very young adult, it was just a way to get somewhere fast. And I thought the monorail at the Disney World was fantastic. That was so futuristic. Yes, a monorail. But I was young. I developed it much further, obviously. I developed the whole world much further. I expanded it outward in such directions. However, that is how it started, as a way to get people from one place to another quickly enough without having to have a 3-week journey on horseback, So I came up with it for that reason. I later, as I grew older and wiser and realized how the world works, realized that a fast transportation system is also an economic boon and a military boon and a thing that can build empires. That's how I came up with the triumvirate, because I realized transportation in itself is a powerful, powerful force. Now, making it a god also, that's the fantasy element, isn't it? Yeah,
and it's a fabulous concept that I think is really going to suck readers in. The readers that, I mean, I'm not per se a hard magic type of person. I prefer a magic soft for a variety of reasons. I like the mystery, the sense of wonder. You don't know, for example, what Gandalf can do in Lord of the Rings. You don't know the extent of his powers. You don't know, the consequences of that. However, the thing just happens, right? However, I do appreciate more detail. I do appreciate those harder magic systems. Perhaps not as intricate as, say, a Sanderson. Not that I don't admire all the work put in and the thought process. It's brilliant, but I like my magic a bit softer. I loved what you did with your series, and specifically the Rill. I think, was there a message there in using that type of magic, as you said, essentially based on a transportation system in a way? Was there a message there, what beyond just, okay, I chose it as as transportation to move my characters around? Was there a message there about that? I'm wondering. There may not have been. I'm just curious.
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, in the sense that, and some readers have caught on to this. I love reading their discussions. Yes, the Rill is descendant of God. A god went into a machine and made it a god machine. However, because people only see the machine aspect, the transportation aspect, the economic benefits, the military benefits, the social benefits, they see it as a machine. It's not. They lose sight of the god completely. And that is part of Drillion's problem. He knows what it is. He's becoming what it is.
Yeah.
And he's growing into it. But how do you fight the fact that the people of your world think that this is just a machine? And what do we do with machines? People control it. People need to control it. And so are they controlling a machine or a god? So that question is part of the whole series.
That is amazing. And yeah, especially hearing the author's design and what was a rationale for that. And that leads me, and everything for me circles back to Durillion. Durillion is not one to be controlled. If of all the things that he is fighting, he's fighting for a lot of things, but he's fighting for autonomy. He's fighting not to be the tool of those who would use him for their own purposes, right? and he would rather die than be used and controlled. He seems resolved to follow his destiny, be whatever that is, and if that means that he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it, but he's going to do it his way. Um, and that goes back, I think, to what you were talking about with the fact that he's based off of an amalgam of your kids and that youthful obstinance that they think they know everything. They're going to do things their way. Be damned what the adults say. I'm going to figure this out. I know better. Is and it's for me. It's not that in a lot of things he's not right. It's not that a lot of things he doesn't understand and have the right idea and doesn't understand the depth of what he's got himself into. Obviously, there's an aspect of naivety, but listen, this is a really smart, gifted person, right? But yet, what strikes me with Derillian, and this is where I'd really like to get your take, is that so much of what he's dealing with is pain. Pain and the pain of not being able to trust, and the pain of some of the tragedies that he's undergone, and the pain of the risk of what could happen if he does trust and he's hurt. So I thought that was, again, it was masterful characterization. But do you think Derillian is someone based on, and again, we're not spoiling here, based on how he is, at least in this first book, and we know if he survives, he's clearly going to mature. Do you think he's someone who could be satisfied? Like, what would satisfy someone like that with the way things turn out, you think?
It's hard to say if he could be satisfied with anything, since he doesn't even know what the results might be. I think he wants to make sure, because if people can control him, they control not just him, but the real economic and the real God. And what will that do to society? What will that do to the future? And so he's quite conscious of that. So what would satisfy him? He doesn't even know what would satisfy him at this point. He does know what would satisfy him is if people would just stop trying to control him and just let him be who he is. But he is constrained. The world is conspiring to shame him and cage him, and that is part of the series going forward, how those things happen and what he does about it. So he's and that's part of the reason he resents people. He's a projective empath. He's a person who, if he hates something, other people might hate it because he hates it. If he is afraid of something, that causes fear in others. If he's angry, he can make other people angry. He has to learn to control that about himself. That's a natural feature of his being. And that's one thing Mark Frederick tries to teach him is it's not just you. How are you affecting other people? And so will he be happy if he makes other people happy? Or will he be happy only if he makes them miserable by being true to himself? He has to figure that out. And that's part of his character, I think, that people find interesting, because as he goes through figuring it out, he can be downright nasty to people, but he can also be surprisingly tender with people too. And seeing how he's figuring it out, I think, is part of the puzzle. At least I hope people are enjoying his journey into himself.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I cannot wait to get journey. I feel sad that I probably won't be able to get back to you till later on in the year. But this is something that, again, an unforgettable book. I'm sure is an unforgettable series. Everybody that I talk to praises it. It certainly does not get enough recognition. It needs to be more widely read. People out there, if you haven't read this book, what are you doing? Go out and get it. This is fantasy. I feel it's meant to be written, right? Taking the time with the depth of characterization, the stunning world building, where again you can just lose yourself, in this, and a main character that you can't look away from. You hang on his every action, his every word. At least how I felt, right?
Well, thank you.
At least that's how I felt.
I
And
personally would kill
and
him, but we would not have a relationship. But yes.
yeah, and as you know from I think you've read a bit of my work, that I have no issue, falling in love with a character that isn't necessarily likable.
Right.
So I think that's one of the commonalities I think that we share. That I think it's more the realism of the character is more important than the likability, because again that
Yeah.
lends the authenticity to the writing. Because it's easy to write a character that's completely good and completely nice, and completely without issues that complicate his thought processes, his outlook, and how he treats people. It's easy to write a character like that, right? But it's a lot harder. It takes a lot more skill, I think.
But
I
yes, you
think
have to make them interesting. But yes.
yeah, and that I can definitely say about really, he is literally one of my favorite fantasy
Well, thank
characters
you. I
now of all
appreciate that.
time.
He appreciates that. Thank you.
So if I may ask you, essentially, book 6 is written. It's a 6-book series,
Yes.
and it will be published in the new year. Congratulations, congratulations! I'm sure your fans are probably extremely excited about that. I know I'm excited to know that by the time I catch up, the series will be finished, and I'll even just binge read it, because this is a series I don't doubt that it's imminently binge readable. So what's next? Can you give us a hint of what's next? What the plan is for after that?
I don't have a absolute plan. I could take any number of paths. There's possible sequels. Definitely the prequel someone mentioned about Mark Frederick. I could definitely tell his story. I have parts of it written. I do have some short stories I will be releasing right after the series is finished, because if I release them now, they spoil things. So I have those. I have a science fiction series that I also have written, but did not get published. I wrote that whole period where I was working hard and paying the bills. I was still writing. I just wasn't trying to publish anything. So anyway, I have a science fiction series. I have stuff. So if my publishers willing, Forest Path Books wants another book from me, they have books. We'll see how that works out. I don't have anything rock solidly planned yet, but there's more writing for me coming down the pike. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that is exciting news. Professional Bookwiz says, I cannot wait to read this eventually, especially when it's finished. Everything I've heard made me convinced I will love it. Well, I believe if I'm not mistaken, I'll correct me if I'm wrong, the first 5 books are out. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. They're all published. They're all
so available. Professional Bookworm, you can get on it, man, and then by the time you finish, you can catch the 6th book. So
an ARC when it comes out in another month or so, and there you go.
There you go. What an offer from the amazing author. So you, to me, and I agree with Jenny. Don't wait. This is something that is going to blow you away. And again, this is Jenny Wirtz. She's an iconic author. If that means anything to you, she loves LL's work. So I think that endorsement alone. Yes. Jenny's books are, again, she's my favorite author. So but Crystal says as well, I'm curious if closing on the end of the series makes you feel a little bit sad, even though it's an amazing accomplishment, or does the idea of continuing with short stories make it easier?
It makes me sad because until I published these books, they were mine. And I could go in and I could change things, tweak it, I could make it beautiful. I could visit scenes that I loved and still change them. I wrote the book backwards in many ways. That's the beauty of having a full series, finished series. You can go back and make sure everything's smooth. I loved playing in my books. I I can't. I don't do that anymore. Occasionally I see a passage, somebody says, oh, this is so nice. And I read it and go, oh, that's good. But I'm not living in the books anymore. And so, yes, in that sense, it's a little sad. I'm putting it out to the readers and only the readers. I mean, it's it's mine, but it's not just mine. And so it's for them, and they can enjoy it, and they will make of it what they will. They will they will have their own interpretations or what characters look like or what the world is like. It's theirs. It belongs to the readers at that point. That's why I tend not to get involved in reader discussions. I won't just jump in. I may notice them and read them, but unless they invite me in to comment, I'm not going to jump in and say, hey, here's what really happened. Here's what you should think. I try to leave that. It's theirs, and that's their world now. So it is a little sad in that way, but it's also liberating in some ways. It really is kind of liberating, because it's like, well, that was a lot of work, and the work is done, and now I can go and have fun in a new sandbox, and so that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I guess this is early congratulations because the book will be published, but congratulations on finishing the series. That in itself is an accomplishment. I know, as well as anyone else, writing a 7-book series and now being on book 6 with book 6 about to come out. I know that it is as much as you love it, it's a chore. So and the sense of accomplishment and I mean, again, kudos that you've seen it through the end, and that is it's huge, right? And I think perhaps underappreciated that writing a long, epic, chunky fantasy series, as wonderful as the experience is, it's somewhat of a chore. So congratulations on making the finish line. People such as Jenny Wirtz definitely know, having finished her magnum opus, they know what that's like. So I'm sure she would agree. Crystal also comments, process of grieving your personal relationship with your writing is deeply relatable. Yes, absolutely. LL, it isn't. There are certain writers, due to their experience, their level of craft, just the kind of person they are, that I always look for them to share, if they're willing to, and if they have any writing advice for the audience. Predominantly for my channel. My interview, for the most part, a lot of independent authors, and a lot of people who, the ones that are my people in my audience, are aspiring authors. They're not sure the path they're taking, whether they're going to self-publish, publish with small press, or they're going after that big 5. They're going to get an agent and pitch and all that. Do you have any advice, whether that's advice with the business side or writing advice in general, about how to craft a really good story? Do you have any advice to provide for us?
Well, my advice is, of course, purely personal and business. I chose the path of making sure I could support myself without my writing supporting me. I would have starved to death and my children would be destitute. But I did that separately. I always had a day job. For peace of mind, it's a nice thing, because writing is very unreliable in terms of making money. But on that, leaving that aside, believe in your work, love your work. Don't be afraid to love it. And I love this world. If I were to take only one book to a desert island, it'd be my book, because I love it and I love moving into it. And love your work, because the love will come through. I think the love comes through when you love your work and you love your characters and you do the right thing by them and give them a life, make them real, make them live. That's the joy of writing, is to bring something to life. And so don't be afraid of that. Kind of in that same hand, I would say don't write to market. But some people have to and some people will. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. For myself, a writer like me, whose joy was in creating something alive, I wrote what I loved and didn't write to market. Otherwise, I'd have thrown dragons in. It's just write what you love and do, and your work will shine more for it. Study how to write. I have not ever read anything, but I said, oh, she did something great there. How did she do it? Oh, how did he do that? Study it, figure out how they did it. Then you can do it yourself. I used to, back in Milwaukee when I was a mom, I would go to science fiction conventions, but because I lived near the airport, guess what I got to do? I got to pick up authors at the airport and drive them to the hotel. I met C.J. Cherry, and I met so many writers, and I would pick their brains. And I got some excellent advice from some of them. And one of them was to learn how to structure your sentences so that you are emphasizing things correctly, that your sentence is doing the heavy lifting, delivering the right message. Whether those words are at the front or those words are at the back can make a big difference. So study how to build sentences, study how to build chapters. I'm not particularly good at chapters, but it's a good thing to know how to do. Learn your craft. Read good books by excellent authors that do the things you want to do and figure out how they did it. Mm-hmm. That's what
that is some astounding advice. Thank you so much for that. It means a lot. Jenny, speaking of excellent authors, knowing when to stop is an imperative constraint. And again,
you can kill it with love. Yes.
yes. And we do have, again, some brilliant authors in the chat, such as Jenny, such as Crystal. You are someone, LL, who I feel that a lot of very respected authors, such as the Jennys, love your work. So are there any authors out there you'd like to give some love to about their work that you've read, or whether
yes.
it's
I got some books.
Okay.
Now,
you love Rex.
I'm not saying these are the best books. I'm not passing quality judgment. I read, and if I like the book, I like the book. I don't necessarily say this is the best book or the worst book. How do I buy my books? Covers. Look at the cover of this book. This is an amazing book. I bought it because of the cover. Okay. It's a good book. And I do think more people should read it. I never see it mentioned enough. It's a good book. I enjoyed it a lot. And it has an amazing cover. So that's one.
Michael S. Jackson.
That's Michael S. Jackson. See, there it is.
Yeah.
Michael
I want to quickly say he's an SPFB, self-published fantasy blog off semi-finalist. Agreed. Ringlander. That's a book that people don't talk enough about. I haven't read it, but I've read his novella, and it's awesome. Yeah. I read his novella. It's awesome. I haven't read that. I have to get that, but thank you for that. That's awesome.
Yes. And I enjoyed this one, The Crimson Fire by Abel Montero, who's also a very nice person. I do read the books of nice people. If I say, oh, that's a nice person, let me see what book it's. Oh, well, maybe I'll try it. Anyway, I tried this because he's a nice person, and it's a very good story. He knows how to write a good story. So I would recommend.
Great booktuber as well. Yeah.
I haven't read book 2 yet. I just read this one. And
no, I haven't read. I was saying he's a good booktuber.
Oh,
he's a good booktuber. I haven't read the book, but he's a great booktuber. I
haven't done his booktube thing. Maybe we will someday.
Yeah, he's got a channel.
I do like
to. He's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I do. I sometimes listen to YouTubes and stuff like that. And I'm always curious, but I don't always. This is a book series that I know people have like her Kane Legacy, A.J. Calvin, with the dragons. But this is the book series that I got into first, and I like it. This is A.J. Calvin, the Relics of War. This is The Moon's Eye, the first book of the series. This was the first book of hers I read. I love the sword and sorcery vibe and the scorpion people, and it's got an old-fashioned kind of fantasy feel that I just adored. So it's a fun series. I highly recommend also The Kane Legacy, Serpentis, her most recent book, Wraith and Revolution. But give this a shot. I mean, I really enjoyed this series.
Great author, great person. I read the first 2 books. I have to read the third still, but and I have Exile, the first book of the other series, queued up in my TBR. So and she is amazing. Met her at Worldcon. She's just an incredible person.
Oh, she seems really nice, and that's another nice person. Oh, a nice person. This is a fun book. It's so fun. It's very fun. Whistles and It's the only one I've read so far, and I had such fun. But yeah, I wanted to get a signed copy at Dragon Con, but I couldn't go. And I said to my son, well, go get a Dragon, because he lives in Atlanta. He goes to Dragon Con. Get a copy. Oh, he couldn't find G. So I just not a signed copy. But anyway, it's a very fun book. And it's a superhero in space.
JC
I like
Umber,
it.
a funny, great sense of humor.
Uh-huh.
I wrote in my review of that book, the most fun I've had with the book all year. You
Yeah.
described it so aptly,
A lot
and
of
he
fun.
and he just has a great sense of humor, and he's a great person. Got to meet in person at Worldcon. Yeah, the with hybrid Helix series is
It
awesome.
is, and he's a fun person to talk with on Twitter and stuff, you know. But yeah, he's amazing. This book, I had a question. I bought it because of the cover. Have you read Edgar Casey? Edgar Casey's Atlantis books? Ah, okay. I bought it because that looked like something from Edgar Casey. Anyway, when I was growing up, my grandmother was a very religious woman, but she believed Edgar Casey was huge in the 70s. This man thought that he was a psychic, and he said that Atlantis, the way it was destroyed and the way it fell, and those people migrated, and the Americas were found by Atlanteans, and he described the technology. He described how they migrated. And I just thought, oh, that's something PL maybe knows about. It had a symbol like that on the book that my grandma had, so that's why I wondered.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
I said, well, I got to check this out. It might be an Atlantis book like Edgar Casey's books.
I'm honored that you have read my book. I'm very honored. Again, I think there are some similarities, not the same, but character, but there are some similarities between.
Oh, I know what character.
between my main character and yours. So,
yes,
you know, but no, those are wonderful recommendations. Those are great books. A lot of them I know. Some of them, you know, I didn't. So that's those. Thank you so much for those.
Yeah, and the brother relationship kind of struck me. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. Quickly, CB Lenzo, thanks for coming by. Sabella says, great advice, LL. It's hard to be creative when you're worried about finances. Good thing,
yeah, it is.
Right, yeah. Give writing the space to be enjoyable. Jenny says that the work will last the financial constraint by length. Think of that. Yep. Nope. Very true. And CB adds that, AJ Calvin has fantastic books. Yeah, she's a great writer and just a wonderful person. So, yeah, it is fabulous to see her books as part of your Rex.
Yeah, I mean, I could name many more, but I don't want to take up all your time.
No, I appreciate it. No, I would talk to you for hours. Just I don't want to take up your time as well. Obviously, another live later on, but this has just been such a pleasure talking to you. I've so enjoyed it. I hope you do the honor of coming back again at some point on the show, especially after after your last book is published, and we can kind of talk about the whole series. I have a couple ideas about that, but we can. I certainly hope that we can chat again, but we will be chatting beyond that, obviously, beyond just live on YouTube. I cannot endorse this book highly enough, Sir Danny. It is absolutely brilliant. If you like lush, epic fantasy with amazing characters and phenomenal world building, this is a series for you, and I can't wait to continue in this series. And LL, you are just such an amazing person, such a fountain of knowledge. You're incredible. You're so supportive and kind as well. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak to me today. I do want to give you an opportunity as we're getting near the end to kind of let people know where can they buy your books. What social media platforms generally can they find you if they want to follow you? Anything else you'd like to say about that sort of stuff as we wind down?
Well, it helps if my publisher makes money on my books. So Forest Path Publishers, Forest Path Books, you can get all of my books there. If you buy a paper book, you also get an ebook included. So you get both the ebook and the paper book. My signed copies are available through there. So if you want a signed book, you can get one there too. Otherwise, they're widely available. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kobo. You can get my books just about everywhere. I'm available for books too, but not really. I mean, I don't sell them. I don't sell them on my website. So go for a publisher, Amazon. I do have a website though. And the website, other than selling books, is a great place to go to find out more about my books, about my world. I have, and a lot of the world building is covered there. There are 3 or 4 short stories. There's all sorts of stuff there for my fans, for the books fans, I should say, not my fans. For the books fans, if they want to know more about the Triumvirate and its world and the characters, that's the place to go. And a lot of the artwork is shown there too. So you don't have to write me and say, oh, I want the postcards. By the way, you can write to me and say, I want the postcards. I will send them to you. I have at least one person who's waiting for some, but that's because I didn't have any more of the real stone. I had to order more. So now I will be sending them to the people who said they wanted them. But I mail all over the world with the postcards. I'm happy to send them out. And I will try to put on there what the artist is so that they get some free promo, because the artists are wonderful. Yeah.
Fantastic. And where can we find you on social media, Ella?
I'm most active on Twitter and Blue Sky. I do have a Facebook author page, LL Stevens Author, where I spill the beans a lot more often than I do anywhere else. My family is on there. Some of my most ardent fans are on there. I have a small but rabid fan base. Yes. So, I will say I'll do more personal stuff there. I'll do longer things than I do on Twitter or Blue Sky. Facebook is good too. Triumvirate.com is my website. It's a good place to find contact information for me. But yeah, Twitter, as you know, I hang out on Twitter. I try to be supportive of other people and just have fun. I post little snippets and stuff.
Well, I can definitely say that you are eminently supportive and that your snippets of your writing is amazing, because obviously the books are amazing. And again, you're so kind and wonderful, and what a great member of the community you are, besides being a phenomenal writer. Quickly, Crystal just says, thanks for a fantastic chat. Love to see you both. Always lovely to see you, Crystal. You're amazing. Another brilliant writer. Check out her work. I just want to say thank you to everyone who showed up on Team Live, such as Crystal and Janny and CB and professional bookworms, etc. And anyone who's going to be on Team Replay. You're what makes this type of long-form content amazing. Long live long-form content. I don't care what anybody says. For me to be able to hang out with someone as amazing as Al and all that they created, I have the privilege of interviewing for an hour or so, is just, it's just incredible. One of the best things for me about being part of this community. So,
well, you're a lot of fun to hang out with, so yay.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. And as I said, I hope we get to do it again in the future. So once more, buy Elle's books. She is amazing. Follow her on social media. All the links will be in the video below. Just quickly, for me, some shameless self-promo as I sign off. P.L. Stewart, John King Segs series. 5 books out now. Yeah, John King was the first book in the series. Thank you, Ella. The 5th book of Pack of Wolves just came out in the spring of 2025. Book 6 of 7. We're getting near the end. A Black Dragon on Red comes out in the spring of 2026. Also, quickly, I am part of the amazing Shapers of World anthology. Some brilliant authors, including the likes of M.J. Kuhn, etc. My short story, Forest Dark, appears about the middle of this, but hey, read it for all the books because there's some amazing authors in here, self-published, mostly self-published, mostly traditionally published, etc. I'm very honored to be asked to be part of this anthology. It's the last one in the series from the wonderful Ed Willett, who himself is a traditionally published author. Check out his award-winning podcast, Shapers of the World. Ed is awesome. Forest Dark, if you want a little peek into my world that you wouldn't otherwise get, this, especially, I know spooky season is over, but it's a bit of fantasy horror. So, check this out. LL, if you'd like an arc of it, I can sell you an arc of the whole.
Thank you.
If you'd like to check it out, maybe get a little sample of, what's potentially to come in the John Kingdom saga, and also something a bit shorter instead of reading another chunky book. So.
Well, I also like to buy books, so maybe I'll just buy it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if I send you the arc, you'll be motivated enough to go pick it up. So
that's true too.
Yeah, both. So and again, the John King Saga is my YouTube channel. And you can also find me on Before We Go blog, where I'm assistant editor. Shout out to the wonderful Beth Tabler and the amazing Before We Go blog crew. My reviews are mostly posted there and on Goodreads. And finally, my other interviewing gig is with my amazing partner, Maybe to the Pages, where we do page chewing, which is another interview series that we're taking a bit of a hiatus. But meanwhile, Six Elementals interviews is going strong, and you can see me interviewing marvelous creatives such as LL here on my channel. But check out my partner, Maybe Between the Pages, my page chewing partner. She does some amazing stuff as in BookTube, so check out her channel as well. All right, everyone, so once again, thanks so much for joining LL and I, and we're going to sign off